And the thing too with this video is I'm not trying to sit here and push it on you and prove it to you. I'm just saying, these are just questions you have to ask yourself and really think, how is this possible? How is something like this possible? Um, and a lot of people are like, okay, so this is one of my biggest things, and I had my godfather, my stepdad. He's not really a believer, but when we were talking to him, when I was talking to him, he had asked me, he was like, because I'm a believer, and he was wondering, we had gotten in a car accident, and he was sitting there thinking, he was like, how do we not die? Because we were going 40 miles per hour to a dead stop, just straight to a dead stop. I mean, the car, like literally from the point we hit to the point we crashed, there was like a 5 feet gap. So 40 to 0 in less than a millisecond. How? I mean, how are we alive? We shouldn't have been. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a greater purpose. And he asked me that question, and he was like, you believe in God, so tell me. And I said, that's stupid. Why would I be able to know that? I don't know. Nobody knows except for God. I mean, he's the only person who knows. Why would I know that information? I don't have a plan for you and you don't have a plan for me. So why don't you go ask the person who has a plan for both of us? There's a greater plan in everything, and sometimes things don't work out. We could have died, and then people, I sit here and I'm alive today and I'm thanking God that I'm alive. But what if I was dead? Would I be thanking him then? Well, for one, I'd be dead, but for two, it's also divine nature. You got to think, God put us on this earth, and does he protect us? Yes, he gives us things that help us and protect us. But, if something bad happens to us, it's not like because, we may deserve it or something like that. It's divine nature. You got to think, like, another question he asked me was, you know, why do things happen to little kids? That's one of the worst things in the world. Why does it happen? Why do people get murdered? Why do people hate people? Well, it's freedom. Honestly, it's you get to pick what do you want to do, where you want to go. And I told him like this, or I was like, all right, so God, when he made you, he gave you a choice. You could either love him or you could not. If you love him, that's great. If you don't, it's your choice. Well, in those two choices, you have a lot of itty bitty other little choices that make up who you are. So if I go, if somebody goes murder someone, or if I go murder someone, it's my choice. It's their choice. It's what they want to do. It's what I want to do. And I made that choice. It's not like God made that choice for me. Because if he did, then God would be literally everyone. It wouldn't be a real working system. It would just be it'd be like if I took control of a bunch of little ants and made them do made them do stuff. Well, if I did that, then they wouldn't be ants. It would just be me. It would just be me. It wouldn't be ants. But no, the ants can do whatever they want because I'm not controlling them. So it's the same with God. He's not controlling us. He gives us the option to do what we want. And you got to think too, like your parents. When you're young, your parents teach you and they train you and they show you what to do. And you have the option to love them. If you want to love them, that's great. If not, it's your choice. But at the end of the day, did they force you to love them? No, because if they did, that would be fake. If you force someone to love you, if you force someone to do something, then that's fake. It's not wanting to be done. But if you give them the option to do whatever they want and they do end up loving you, then that's real genuine love. So think about that for a second. You know, I hope that answers your question. Why do bad things happen? Bad things happen because of a choice. Because of a choice that we were given. Because of a choice that we were given because he wanted us to make these choices, to be free or to not. And we get to choose. And if we choose right, then we're going to have a nice life. But if not, some things are going to be rough. And that's why everybody runs into rocky situations because we can't choose right every time. So, I hope this kind of helped. I hope this kind of opened some people's eyes and showed some people just sort of how, I think God is real and I'm trying to prove his existence to you by proving it to myself as well. And I have by these facts that just don't make sense. Even if you have a scientific mind, in the comments, please answer them because you can't. Because even the best scientists in the world don't know. One, if, how is God real if I can't see him? So let me ask you this. How do I know you're real if I haven't seen you? You're looking at me through a computer. You don't know that I'm real. I could be AI for all you know. You don't because you've never met me. Oh, most of you. But what about my brain? Like even if you did meet me in real life, you've never seen my brain before. So how do you know I have a brain? How do you know I have a heart? How do you know I have organs? You don't because you've never seen them before and you never will. So how do you know? Well, that's just what people have said. So that's just what we take it as. Okay, well, I've never seen God, so why is it, so he's not real. It's not the case. I've never seen your brain, so that means you don't have a brain. That's pretty much what you're saying right now. So you got to think sort of outside the box and put it in and dumb it down into simpler terms that make sense of how, on a level of how you think. Like consciousness. How do we have consciousness? No other species has it. How do we have it? How do we get it? Why did we get it? So you got to think those are just really crazy things. But starting off with fact number one, the odds of you existing in this world, it's 1 in 10 with 202,685,000,000 zeros behind it. That's the odds of you being alive. The total known atoms in the universe is 1 in 10 to the 40, or to 10 to the 80, I think. It's one of the two, 10 to the 40 or 80, but it doesn't matter because it's way lower than these odds right here. So the odds that you even have a life are so astronomically unproportionate that it should be impossible. But the possible was made. Possible happened. If gravity was off by just 0.00000 with 10 million ones behind, or 10 million zeros behind it, nothing would be here right now. When the universe was created, if gravity was off by just that much, nothing would be here. Nothing at all. Think about that. If one person in your bloodline did one simple thing, like maybe didn't go out to get coffee that day when they met your grandfather or grandmother, you wouldn't be here. Nobody you know would be here. Nobody they know would even be here because everything would have changed. Out of 8 billion people and over probably 25 billion people who've ever lived, nobody is the exact same as you. Think about that. That's insane. All right. Now, when it comes to, God and everything, the most popular religion is Christianity. And that follows Jesus Christ. And a lot of people believe in Jesus Christ, but they want to believe in God. But Jesus Christ was a real person. You can't deny it. It was. He's the most documented person in history. Even people who don't believe in God, there are over 25,000 manuscripts proving Jesus' existence, right, and what he did. Now let me ask you a question. Do you know who Julius Caesar is? Hopefully everybody said yes. I hope. Well, there are only about 10 manuscripts that prove he was a real person. Think about that. 10. We're all taught about him, in the books, in history books. And there's only 10. But 25,000 for Jesus? We know Jesus was a real person. That's not the question we're asking. The question we're asking is God real? Okay, so a few questions that you can sort of ask yourself that I ask myself and try to figure out myself. One, how is conscience? How is it a thing? How do we think of it? How did we even create consciousness? How did we even create the word? How did we create the subject? Was it ever created, or did we create it and then it happened? Who gave it to us? What gave it to us? You gotta think about things like that. So a few questions I ask myself is, why does anything exist instead of nothing? So why does all of this exist, everything we have, instead of nothing existing? What happened to where all of this stuff could be created? Another example is, like they say, the Big Bang Theory, this itty bitty little atom, smaller than, you can't even see a gap between my fingers, smaller than that, blew up and created everything we know today. Why? Why did it blow up? What was that created from? How did that get here? How did it produce all of this? How? How did it do this? Why does the universe, if you really dive deep into the universe, you can sort of see patterns. How is there patterns in the universe? How is there thing like black holes? How is that a thing? How, when something dies, it goes into itself and creates something bigger and stronger? How? And I used ChatGPT to help bring all the facts together. And according to everything I've sort of said, which all the facts that I have said are true, you can go look them up yourself. With everything taken into consideration, there's between a 60 to 80% chance God is real, and a 20 to 40% chance he isn't. So there's a higher chance that God is real versus isn't. And the reason that is because, is it the God that we as Christians worship? Well, we don't know, because we won't know till we die. That's just what we believe. But there's a more likelihood that there was a God that fine-tuned everything just because of how everything is perfectly lined up. Everything is so perfect that even if it was just just literally less than an atom difference, nothing would be here. So you got to think it's so perfectly that there was more likely of a God that fine tuned everything than everything just happening. I mean, it's either you believe that there was a God that fine tuned everything, or you believe everything just happened. There's only two. There's only two sides, and you can only pick one because there's not another one that you can pick. There's no other explanation of how things got here. Either they popped up from nothing, or they came from a fine tuned God. So pick which one.